Hello everyone, welcome back to Tier 2 Talk. It is me, Retro, joined by Dweg as per usual. We've got kyxsan, the IGL of Apex, joining us today. How are you doing, kyxsan?
I'm fine. First of all, thanks for the invite. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks. Josh, we've got more Counter-Strike to talk about. We're on a bit of a
Yeah.
roll in the old Tier 2 Talk area because we've got a couple of episodes like back to back, right? We're actually getting some progress done. So I think there's less to talk about on the event side of things, less to talk about on the roster side of things. But that means we get more hot takes, and that'll be coming later on in the episode, of course, in the RMRs and the Tier 2 squad. We can start obviously with the finished events, Josh, and we can get
Yeah.
things the ball rolling. Obviously we've got some CCT stuff as per usual. It seems like every day I wake up and there's a new event going on. Obviously we've got the ESL Challenge in Melbourne that's just finished up as well. More CCT, and then we'll move on obviously to the ongoing side of things.
Yeah. Perfect. So I think what we'll do is, kyxsan, we'll start off with the South Europe, which was a little while ago now. I think it was about just over like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, where you guys had a pretty good Swiss stage. I think you lost to BP5 fairly early on, and then didn't even drop a map in any of those games, and then ended up being eliminated by Copenhagen Flames. I think the first one is like, what do you think about Flames? Because obviously this was pre-change. This was when Regali was still on the lineup.
Yeah, like we played a few times, and I don't really remember what happened in this specific game, but I know that we lost, and I'm gonna say that it's. I feel like it's always hard to play against them.
Hmm.
They're a pretty good team, and like we beat them a week ago or something, but I feel like every time I play against them, it's pretty hard to like counter them. Or like I just think that Bird from Sky is very good IGL, and most of the time he's one step ahead of the others, and it's just hard to play against them, I feel like.
Hmm.
I don't
I
say
think,
that they're unbeatable, of course, because we beat them like a week ago,
yeah.
but they're a pretty underrated team, I would say.
Okay. I think it's probably a bit of a positive note, I'd say, Ryan, that since the changes have come in, that at least the likes of Farlig's holding his weight, right? Like I think a lot of people looked at that and thought, oh, I don't know, Regali for Farlig, what's that going to be like? But
Yeah.
Farlig actually individually seems to be performing quite well, so that's at least an early positive sign, I think, for the Flames going into a new roster change for their sake.
Yeah, I think people very quickly said like replacing Regali was the wrong move, and like Farlig would never be able to take his place. But it was actually more. I think we're recognizing maybe the other pieces are a little more problematic than the Farlig
Mm.
substitution, because he's been playing very good for the Copenhagen Flames side, and I don't think people gave him enough respect when he joined. You know, a lot of people were just quick to jump on the whole like, oh, Regali got benched, like, you know, what a shame, rather than giving Farlig the floor, because when he was playing even previously, right, in the Astralis days, like he wasn't a bad player. I think it was just wrong place, wrong time kind of situation, right? Like so,
Mm.
yeah, nice to see him back, of course. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they've got in store for us, because there's a big change to be making. At least now with obviously like the major cycle going on, they've got a bit of time to kind of like think about what their next move is.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Swiss stage, kyxsan. I mean, a loss to BP5. Maybe people look at that one and say what's happened in that sort of affair. Maybe give us some thoughts on some of these teams, because I don't think the majority of teams that you played in Swiss we would classify as like high end tier 2 teams. So maybe just some thoughts on the 4 teams that you played in Swiss.
Yeah, as I remember, we played BP5 the first match, Budapest 5, and we
Mm.
lost it, and then we won against Entropic, Prospects, and Voivoda.
Yeah.
I think they're all like decent teams, but we should be able to win against all of them, I would say. And I think the game against Budapest 5 is just a game that can happen to any team. Like they're not a bad team, I would say. So I expect us to win against them most of the time, but it can happen like this, that sometimes it's just not going well for you and you just lose the game. And I don't really remember what exactly happened because it was like a month ago maybe. So yeah,
Yeah.
but after that I think we bounced back good. We won like 3 best of 3s, 2-0 in a row. And yeah.
Yeah. I think we spoke about this event last episode for the playoffs, Ryan. So maybe we can just look at some of the other teams in main Swiss, because we didn't chat about that. I mean, for Masonic, I think again they've had a hard period for the last month and a half or so, ever since they lost Buzz, really. I think we've seen them in a difficult period, so I think we have to look at Black and say what's he going to be able to do? What's he going to do out of the transfer to try and get that team some success? Because it almost felt like even before the players moved over to Ecstatic of that core three, that were finally getting somewhere. They then rebuild again, they get buzz, and they're starting to get somewhere again, and now it's in a bit of a drought. So you almost wonder, is that it? Like, is it just going to take some time now rather than just be like, we just sub a player back in and that's sorted? We've just got a good team again.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see. I think again, like now, a lot of these teams that we're talking about are like sort of in and about the whole like post major shuffle like argument, right? Like we always see
Yeah.
it where teams have. I don't know if it's easy to say, oh yeah, we're gonna have like loads of changes, plenty of shuffle, what have you, but. I don't know, man. I think right now, like some of these teams that we're talking about, maybe your Voivodas going 2 and 3, your Partisans, your Katunas, like having glimpses of opportunity, and I think especially for Partisan as well, with how well they've played in the past little while.
Yeah.
You know, not making the RMR, this was probably their best chance yet for any of those players to be making it, right? And now that we're looking at an
True.
RMR-less side, like, is this time to make a change, or is this going to be like spending from now until the end of May when the major's over, you just pracking and grinding and really slogging through like the rough patches, just so when you return to like CS normally, sort of post-player break, like, is that then where we're going to see this big change? Because right now, I think there's a lot of teams in this stage that I'm not too convinced about, and they're teams that probably should be seeing themselves through. I think Entropic is another like perfect example of that.
Yeah, another one of those sort of new international squads. So maybe we'll see it, right? The more changes come after the RMR with
Yeah, exactly.
like a BP5, an Entropic, a Partisan. Like between the lot of them, right, there might be some chopping and changing. So yeah, just keep an eye out on that, I guess, right?
Yeah, roster changes are going to come thick and fast. I think it always happens,
Yeah,
right? Like post major
does.
shuffle, there's always teams that change out of the blue, and there's always like pieces that you're wondering what's happened. They also change. Do you want to talk about the playoffs a little bit, Josh? Like just summarize or?
Well, we spoke about it on the last episode, didn't we, when we had Seltzer on? Because we
True.
spoke about the Aurora run. So I think we can just move on, go
All
back
right.
into the qual for Melbourne.
Easy, yeah. Obviously, we had a little chat about this one in the last one, didn't we, Josh? Like the
Yeah.
Melbourne quali, but now it's completely concluded. We can talk about obviously how things went for you individually, kyxsan, and for Apex, and obviously this event as a whole. Always fun to see these double elims and like the top end of tier 2 play. I can just about fit it all on one screen if I transition back over. You can see here, obviously, we've got Aurora, Copenhagen Flames, Forza, Sprout, Honoris, Ecstatic, 1-win, Apex. This is like top end of tier 2. Like this is like the push for tier 1.5, I'd argue. This is a very, very stat qualifier. And obviously double elim as well. kyxsan, let's talk obviously about your games, because I think you got a pretty tough draw when it came to the teams that you play compared to others. Your opening game against Aurora, if you remember, how do you think that went? Like on a team level, obviously it was a 16-10, 16-4, pretty swift stuff. What was it from your end? What was it like from your end, I should say?
Yeah, like first of all, I want to say that this qualifier had very good teams, as you said, and I don't see like any weak opponent here. But I feel like Aurora was maybe, I would say, the best at that time, and even now, like I think during this year, in the first 3 months, they're for me the best tier 2 team maybe. So of course it was tough to play against them. And I remember we picked Ancient that match. It started like 8-0 for them. We couldn't just find our game. We came back, we won like maybe 10 rounds in a row or something. We were actually leading on Ancient, and then they just won like the rest of the rounds, and it ended 60-10. So it was pretty rough to play against them. And Anubis, I feel like we didn't even join the server for that map. We just got destroyed 16-4. Nothing much to say about that one. But yeah, I've been impressed by their performances this year. They are playing pretty good, and as I said, in my opinion, maybe the best tier 2 team right now.
Now, in this qualifier, kyxsan, obviously you had Berserk from the academy team standing in for Nork. So, do you want to tell me about what that means for like an IGL and maybe what that means for the team? Because is this the first time since you've been in the lineup that you've had to use a stand-in?
Yeah, it was the first time, and of course it's a bit tougher to play because it's a player that you've never played with before. and it's a guy from the academy who is quite inexperienced. But on the other side, he only played the second best of three, I think, against Sprout. But as I said, on the other side, I feel like sometimes it's like you don't feel that pressure and you play a bit more loose, and it was not hard to play with him, I would say. He impressed me, I'm gonna say. I expected, I think he did good even though we lost, and as you can see, I think we should have won this game even with a stand-in. Like Overpass was 16-14, Ancient was 19-17, and we were leading the whole game. We had the game in our hands, but we just couldn't close it out.
And this was one of the first few games I think we saw with Azza in the lineup as well, Ryan. So
Yeah.
what do you think about the new look Sprout? Because obviously we had this whole situation where Maze came in for two best of threes, and then he got kicked out of the team. They now bring a new IGL forward, and then Xiphon comes back. Like, it feels like, for us at least, when we look at Sprout, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of players coming in. There's quite a few players coming out. So is that tough to play a sort of a team where the lineup is consistently changing, and the styles may be changing in the team as well?
I To be honest, I don't really like when a team is changing players too often like they did. I think they made like three roster changes in like a week or two. So obviously it's bad for a team. But now with this roster, I feel like the core of Xiphon, Lungs, and Stair is pretty good. AZR is pretty experienced IGL. Xelo has been underperforming since he joined Sprout, but I feel like they have pretty good roster now, and if they're given time, I think they can make good things. Obviously, right now it's not looking too good for them, but as I said, I think they just need more time because AZR was not playing for a year or something, so he needs some time to getting used to playing again. And if Xelo steps in a bit more, if he improves a bit more, I think they can be really good tier 2 team.
Yeah,
One of the best, I would say.
The only worry I have a little bit here, Ryan, is like motivation. Because for
Yeah.
Sprout, they were like grinding really hard, and then they found a lot of success, right? They started going to a lot of lands. They started becoming a high-end tier 2 team. Now you've made changes. It might take 3 months. It might take 6 months to try and get back to that position. And you almost wonder with the team, is that going to affect them of getting back to that grind mentality where you're losing a lot of games, you're having early exits, you're not up there with the top. So maybe that's something we need to keep an eye out for. And even for Xelo, again, like if he can try and maintain that form that we saw on Ecstatic, try and maintain that form that we know that he can do on Nexus, because I think, again, he's a very capable AWPer. We just maybe have been wanting to see it for longer than what we actually have.
I think the issue is with this team as well, right? Like, mentally, they're going to be so checked out, right? Like, for them, they made the RMR, fair enough. Like, we'll have a chat about that, I think, a little bit later, Josh. Like, they made an RMR, cool for them. But you've got to think, for someone like Xiphon, comes into this roster, they have a huge chunk of success, and then all of a sudden, there's two changes, right? Where they don't see that he's a good fit for the team all of a sudden, and then they promote Refresh, or they demote Refresh from the IGL. They try and bring someone in, then that IGL gets kicked, Refresh takes it back, Xiphon's still on the bench, and then Xiphon comes back and Refresh benches himself. Like,
Yeah.
do you know how like mentally fucked that will be for Xiphon? Like, in that position where he's like, I'm in the team, I'm out of the team, I've just watched them bottom out of a couple of qualifiers, and now I'm meant to be back in the team. I don't know, like, I think the treatment of these players has been pretty, like, it's not from Sprout themselves, but just because of the timeline of events. Like, everyone is just going to be so demotivated, as you say, and for a team, as you said, that benefited so much off of the grind, you kind of, that's the last thing you want to see from them, right? Like, that is genuinely rock bottom the last thing that you want to see. You've now got, what, your third IGL in a month? Because now, obviously, like, Maze, Refresh, and now Azza. As kyxsan was saying, I don't think Xelo's had a great time on this team. Like, he hasn't fit in very well. He's still trying to, like, sort out the teething issues. Obviously, as also pointed out, like, the core is very good for this team, but now you're looking at another missed opportunity probably to qualify for a major. Like, just realistically speaking, I think next to no chance of making it out of the RMR. So it's another major cycle wasted, and you know, if the tendencies continue, what's not to say in 6 months' time there could be another player in Sprout? What's to say that there could be another change? You know, it's just all the roster changes have happened at the wrong times for my liking, and the timeline of events has put them in a very tricky situation where now they're going to need to grind for 9 months consecutively to make an RMR and to qualify for a major. And I don't see a timeline with this current Sprout iteration, unless if they hit the ground running, that they don't make another change. And so that's kind of like thrown back into everything.
Maybe we just need to keep following their events, see what they're like at the RMR as well. Back on LAN, where I'd say they've probably performed better than they have online
It's
over
true.
the last 6 months or so. So, yeah, we can keep an eye out for them. But yeah, across the board, I mean, I'm sure, again, kyxsan, like, you had a stand-in for this event, but still disappointing to go out in last place. I think you bounced back in CCT West really nicely, getting a grand final position, going deep in the playoffs. This is probably something that I think you and the guys so far this year have been waiting for, right? That push to go very deep in an event.
Yeah, actually one of our goals for the first part of the season or before the RMR and the major, it was to win one of these tier 2 tournaments, CCT or something else, it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna be honest, I was very disappointed when we lost the grand final yesterday because I felt like we had a pretty good run, even though we only played the playoffs. We got invited there. We beat some pretty good teams. I mean, Big is one of the tier 1 teams. Endpoint and Eyeballers are also teams that I wouldn't. I would say they're pretty good, and we beat all of them 2-0. And I just feel like we couldn't find our game in the grand final, and I was pretty disappointed to see that.
Maybe we talk game by game, because I think from my perspective, and maybe Ryan, you share some accolades to this. With Eyeballers, it felt like this was a team where they'd stayed together for a really long time. They hadn't found the progression. Finally, they bring in Pepzor, and it's like, okay, this is the change for the better. But I feel like they're still maybe 1-2 changes away from breaking through. And I wonder maybe if Flusher's like holding them back because he's not IGLing on the team. I don't think his numbers are definitely up there. I mean, statistically, he's one of their worst performers. And you just wonder, like, what could be next for Eyeballers? Because they're a team that constantly make playoffs, but I think they're always going out in the round of 16. They're never really having the deeper run. So when you play these guys, how do you think of them overall?
As I said, I think they're pretty good. Like they're decent tier 2 team, I would say. But as you said, they might need like 1 or 2 more changes to, let's say, reach the next level. So yeah, like I think it was not very hard game against them. I think we won like 16-8, 16-8 or something like that. So it was not hard to play against them. But yeah, I still think they're pretty good team. With 1 or 2 more changes, they might be like even much better.
Okay.
Yeah. I think in their current state, like, they're a gatekeeper team. Like, top 50, I'd say. Like, if you can beat them, I think you're on your way to being a top 50 in the world team, right? Like, they're a very solid team, but as I think everyone will agree, the bottom line is this is not a team that I can see qualifying for RMRs. This is not a team in its current state that can go deep in tier 2 tournaments, you know, win trophies, go to these, like, studio finals. And like if I bring up the Eyeballers page here, you can see, right, the if I click on the roster, like the stats aren't terrible, and apparently like JW in his time here has had like a really good form. But if you obviously visit his page as an individual, the stat isn't terrible for JW. He's one of the old timers, of course. You want to check out maybe like the Flusher stats on the other hand, right? And it's slightly lower. Like I don't know if they're the best fit. Definitely this team, the one thing that they bring and they desperately needed was experience, right? Because if you look at the history of these players outside of JW and Flusher, like you're talking academy teams, you're talking like, you know, kind of like loitering around maybe top 80, top 100, sort of like tier 2, tier 3 borderline CS, right? They obviously get a big opportunity. They're playing with some big names. It's very important for them to gather that experience, but is this going to be a team that I could see qualifying in the future? In its current state, no. And again, that kind of links back to this whole talk that we were having previously about Sprout and things like that. It's like there's a lot of teams here that you feel like after this major could benefit with a roster change. And I would certainly say Eyeballers is one of them. I don't know what the English is like across the board for this team. I don't know if the Eyeballers organization will even think about going international. Because another thing you've
No,
got to
I can't
consider,
see it.
another
No.
thing you've got to consider is I think what JW and Flush are like co-owning, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's
Similar
like,
to Eternal Fire.
so it's like if you bench them, like actually what happens? You know, do you keep your org? Like, you know,
yeah.
like I don't want to say that they're gonna be stubborn about it. Like I don't know them personally. I can't comment on that. But it's like, well, actually, you know, if you're gonna bench the org owners any day of the week, they could just turn around and go, okay, bye, we're not renewing the contracts. Like you're off. You know, like see you later. This is the only difficulty with like player-owned orgs, because as you said, it's the exact same thing in Eternal Fire, where it's like, well, someone's gonna have to buy out the percentage, or like, it's difficult. It's really really difficult. But yeah, I'd like to see change. I think in this specific series, Shine's been done a bit dirty. I've been like fairly impressed with how he's been playing. I think for the rest of the team, like they've been doing really well. And so to see them lose as bad as they did against you guys is a bit sad. But obviously, you played a great game of Counter-Strike, as you're saying, right? Like you were the lowest rated player on the team, and even then you dropped to a 1.16, right? Like everyone was just on point. So like yeah, it was a really sick performance watching that game. Obviously after that you played your quarterfinal game. Yeah, and it's a big one, right? It's I casted this game. This was really interesting to watch. Yeah, I remember this.
Well, I'll let you get your views out first, Ryan, and then maybe kyxsan, you can give some insight, and then I'll come in right at the end.
Okay. I want to bring it up map by map real quick. Like this first half was horrific from Big. Like genuinely, I think the reason they lost this game, couldn't get a single round on the CT side. Like they were always getting like force bought. I think you won like 2 half buy rounds or like 2 force buy like Deagle rounds. Like it was on a really crazy game, and Big just couldn't do anything, right? Like they just got locked out, 5-10 down. They won both pistols and still lost the game like 16-7. And then Inferno was close, like very very close. You were like 15-13 up. They brought it to OT. Went 2-1 down, then won all 3 rounds on the CT side. This game was just, it felt like pretty even throughout. I want to say I'm pretty disappointed in Big, because I think if you look at the series stats, you can kind of like understand what happened, and that is that the AWP of Hyped was nowhere, like the entire series. I don't know what was happening. He couldn't hit shots on Inferno, didn't feel like he was picking up the AWP much on Ancient. Like, I don't want to pinpoint, it's a horrible thing to do, Josh, but like I think the stats show what my opinion is reflecting.
All right, what do you think, kyxsan, of this game? Because I mean, it's a fantastic victory to be able to get a 2-0 against a tier 1 team, and it's probably a lot of confidence for you guys too, right?
Yeah, for sure. It got us a lot of confidence, and I want to start with Ancient. Actually, it's a map that we've been playing a lot, and we feel pretty comfortable on. And on top of that, we also had a pretty good idea of how they're playing, so we kind of knew how to counter them, and everything just worked out. We won like 2 first rounds with Deagles, Tech9s. We won all the important rounds that we needed, and I would say that it was not even close. Like I felt like we just outplayed them on this map. And about Inferno, actually we didn't know for sure if they would pick Inferno, but we kind of expected it. And we didn't prepare for Inferno as much as we did for Ancient, but we just tried to play our game. And even though Inferno has not been so good for us lately, I think we just by playing our game, I think we just deserved the win. I think even on Inferno, even though it was close.
Okay. Now, I don't want to take anything away from this victory, kyxsan, but this is where I've got to come in a little bit on the Big train and sort of say, in tier 1, right? I think, you know, they're average. They hang their weight. They get some decent victories. Like they're a decent team. When they play online versus tier 1 teams, they're decent. They get away with quite a few victories. They qualify to a lot of events. But what the fuck happens to Big when they play tier 2 teams online? I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's philosophy, if it's that they're going in with the wrong attitude. Again, I don't want to take anything away from your victory, kyxsan, but these guys lose to Monty, to Spirit Academy, to Copenhagen Flames, to Fiend, to Skade. Like, for the last year to 18 months to 2 years, it feels like any time these guys get invited into a quarterfinals, into a round of 16, and they play tier 2 competition online, it's like they're done already. Like, and that probably gives a lot of confidence too to the tier 2 teams, that they know, oh, we've got Big in our bracket. Fuck it, well, that's just a win. So I don't know. Like, what do you think that is, kyxsan? Because their results in tier 2 online are very, very different to the results in tier 1 and against tier 1 teams online.
Okay, I will compare it to a situation that we've been in, like in the
Okay.
last month. So basically, when we played the RMR, close qualifier RMR from the bootcamp, we won. We went through 3-0 with only one map lost, and everything was perfect. Like we were bootcamping, the atmosphere was amazing. Everyone played amazing. We upgraded our strat book. Like I felt like we could beat any team at that time. But then when we went home from the bootcamp, we had some online matches and we lost to teams like Budapest 5, Young Ninjas. I don't want to take anything away from them. I think they're all decent teams, but maybe sometimes like after a good run against, for example, like we did on the RMR, close quali, then when you go back to playing some online games against some weaker opponents, maybe the motivation is not as high as it was before. So maybe it's the same with Big. I don't know, to be
Yeah.
honest. But I guess that this can be the situation that they're in.
It's just strange though, Ryan, because it's like, why do they play in these events then? Do you know, like, they don't have to play in these. Like, obviously, close
Yeah.
qualifier to the RMR, stuff like that, you can understand it. But for these CCTs and Alyssa Invitationals, why are they playing in it if they don't have the right mentality? If they're not, getting themselves victories on the board? Because it just feels like so often they're getting upset. So yeah, I don't know what to think about Big online in these kind of cups, because for you guys, I mean, this is like two zeros back to back. You've got through a tier 1 team. You're now going into the next game, and again, I guess this is maybe where the run is kind of similar to the RMR. You're feeling really confident. You've got some good victories up on the board. You then have the likes of Endpoint next, where I think for both Ryan and I, we maybe look at Endpoint and we say, okay, they've always been, even with different iterations of the lineup, a decent tier 2 contender, but they're not at peak form right now. They're not at the best position. So to even see them at top 4 here is kind of a surprise. So did you look at that game and kind of think, oh yeah, we're the much better team?
Honestly, I think it was like that because we played them like a week ago and we beat them pretty comfortably, 2-0 I think. So I think we knew before this game that we are the favorites, and again we were quite confident in our map pick Ancient, and we just expected us to win the game, and that's it. But yeah, I agree that they haven't been in the best form lately, but I guess it's pretty normal because they had a roster change and their by far best player Nerds went to ends, so it's hard to instantly have good results, I guess.
I mean, even looking at the numbers basis, Ryan, not all looking that great for Endpoint. I think again, we're still waiting to see, is Fessor the right piece? Maybe Endpoint are kind of thinking themselves, we'll give it another few months. Let's just see what happens, because I think when we look at a lot of tier 2 teams, there are teams out there, kyxsan, that we look at, maybe like a Monty, maybe a 500, that we go, okay, these guys can win events. These guys can win CCTs, and I know that you've said that that's one of your goals as well. That's maybe been a struggle for Endpoint over the course of the last, year, 2 years or so, is that even though they kind of hold themselves at a higher degree, they qualify to RMRs, they get to pro leagues, we're still yet to see them winning an event, to go all the distance. So coming up against you guys, getting another 2-0, so you go into the grand final, which I believe gets played on the same day, right? You play the game in the morning and then the game in the afternoon?
Yeah, actually the first game was 9:30 for us.
Lovely. The morning games,
yeah,
Ryan. We love them.
waking up at 7 to play a game.
Yeah. So I think other side of the bracket, I don't know. Did you cast any of these games, Ryan?
I want to say yes. I caught the big Apex game, and this was the 10 o'clock game, so it would have been. It would have been San Galmonte was the game I casted after that.
Okay.
I think I had a watch of some of these as well. Big Harvu I definitely casted. Like I dabbled in the playoff stage. I think Sangal
Right.
ITB was a game. Yeah, this is also a game that I casted. The Sangal ITB game.
But not the semi-finals. and the
No,
final.
no. I did get asked, but it was like super last minute. I wasn't able to.
Right.
Yeah, so I think like this whole playoff bracket, like you've got to understand as well. I think another thing for context, let me quickly bring it up, is we're now halfway through the West Europe, right? And if people at home maybe don't understand, because I don't think this is well advertised on the Liquipedia side of things. Obviously, the players are going to be very clued up about this, but for those at home that maybe don't understand, if you're listening, it's going to be quite difficult to understand. But if you're obviously watching on YouTube or live on Twitch or whatever, I'm going to bring it up on screen for everyone to see now. The top 3 teams from each series after 4 events get invited to a studio event. We obviously saw it for Central Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
that
right.
was already been and gone, where obviously it was the B&E Eternal Fire Grand Final. You can see on screen now, we're halfway through. Apex are 3rd, Monty are 2nd, Spirit Academy are 1st. If you go across the board, Endpoint have been one of these teams that crop up an awful lot, Josh, just to circle back a bit. They've been definitely like in and around, but not in the points. You know, we're seeing some pretty decent names. Obviously, I think it works as there's 8 teams that go, so 3 qualify, 5 get invited. And that's just so they can obviously get like bigger namesake and whatever. When it's 100 grand,
Gotcha.
you know, you can like, oh yeah, we'll fly a big out or whatever. More than likely, Fnatic played in one of these events as well. Probably just like, oh, if you play in the online one, we'll give you an invite kind of thing. But anyway, like we're halfway through. You are, you know, you got your grand finals points, which is going to be a bit BM because it could have been the whole 150. But you guys currently sitting in the top 3. Is this something that you pay attention to a lot, kyxsan? Because obviously, like for you, you were talking about winning one of these events. Is this like, do you just take the invites because you know it's points and you can get to a studio final, or do you just think in the moment like you just want to win a tier 2 cup?
I would say both. Like we want to win one of these cups, and also like qualifying to the studio finals is also, I think they're good tournaments too, and also we get some LAN experience because we still haven't played any LANs with the new roster since I joined Apex. So yeah, and we try to actually play only some of the CCT tournaments. For example, West Europe, we played in both of them. We don't play like one South, one West, one Central, let's say. So we focus on 1 or 2 regions, so we have bigger chances to qualify to the studio finals, if that makes sense.
Okay, so not the grinders attitude that maybe some of the other teams do. We know some of these squads, Ryan, pretty much playing all of them, so it's just a matter of perspective, isn't it? You know what they want to try and achieve out of it. So so obviously, yeah, you guys looking to try and see if you can claim that top 3 position. Do you wanna maybe give us some thoughts on the final as well? Because you went up against Monty, who you've played quite a bit recently, and I think in the final, one game or one map, I should say, was extremely close of Mirage, but Ancient, your map pick, a map that again, when we look about the Endpoint series and maybe against the big series, seems quite comfortable, seems like a map that you quite enjoy. You come into this one, what happened?
Yeah, it was pretty hard to play, and I don't think it was the map because right now I think Ancient is one of the most comfortable maps for us. I think what was the biggest problem here was that basically for us it's pretty hard to play against Monte because they have 5 individually good players, and like 3 or 4 of them are pretty aggressive. They have pretty aggressive playstyle, and that doesn't really that's not good for us. It's basically hard to play against them. And yeah, as I said, I don't think we lost because of the map, because of we played bad on Ancient. It was just that they out-aimed us, outplayed us, whatever you wanna call it. And Mirage, it was much closer. We actually connected to the server on the second map, but like some small details decided the outcome, and unfortunately they won.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe like just as a thought process then, because obviously you guys have got a coach, you got yourself. Do you feel as if you have to play Monty again, something's got to be different? Like you have to adapt your play style to them? Because I think a lot of people have seen Monty recently and maybe since they've picked up SDY that they are a proper threat in Tier 2, that these guys can win events. These guys can upset against Astralis, against Big, against Ends. Like they can put up some decent fights up even against Tier 1 opposition teams. Because you've obviously got Waro, who's a fantastic AWPer. You've got even sometimes like Krasnal that picks up secondary AWPing. DemQ does a little bit as well, and you almost kind of wonder sometimes what's happening, like on CT sides when they've got a lot of money. So is it just one of those teams where because it's so difficult to play that you can't play your typical style, that something has to be different when you play Monty?
Yeah, for sure. Like if we face them again, for sure we need to change something because we lost the last 3 matches against them. And as you said, they're quite unpredictable. Sometimes For example, DameQ picks up the ops, the second op, sometimes it's Krasnal, and you never expect what they're gonna do. And yeah, for sure we need to change something, but I'm not gonna say what.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, so I don't know. What do we think about Monty at the moment, Ryan? Because I think both of us have casted quite a bit of them, and I think going towards the RMR will be a first maybe test against tier one competition, and of course against LAN, right? Like that's where we want to see these guys, because I think we've seen obviously Warrior 2K and Boris before at LAN. We've seen very little of Krasnal at LAN. Then we've seen very little of DemQ at LAN, and then obviously we know SDY, but this is an online team, at least when it comes to the repertoire of being successful, being threatening. I'd love to see what these guys are going to be like on LAN.
Yeah, definitely. I think like they're a good team, but I don't buy into the stock of Monty as maybe much as
Okay.
other people do. Because as you say, like individually we've got some very good players, but you've got to consider we haven't seen them play together at an RMR or at a LAN. We haven't seen them. I don't think they've boot camped, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I've not heard of anything. I've not seen any tweets about it. Like we haven't seen them actually like at their fullest against good opposition. And by good I mean like pushing the boundaries of tier one and like playing in that LAN environment where things are very very equal and even, where it's actually about the teamwork more than it is anything else. So I don't know. I'd like to say like Monty, they're a very good team. Don't get me wrong, but I'll believe it once we see them in a studio, in a CCT, or
Okay.
like maybe pushing
Yeah.
like the Elisa events at the end of the year, if that happens again. Obviously, like maybe like that kind of level where there's good opposition. It's like the 1.5 level, kind of like the all of the studio events are for CCT. That's where I'll give my full opinion. But they're a very good team right now, very strong, individually sound. Um, I think the structural issue was a thing that we talked about when the team was first picked up, right? Because this is like there's no definite IGL. Like I don't think Waro IGL'd anything before this team.
No.
They're running what I think like two. They had like three AWPers in their team, right? At the first iteration,
That's right. Yeah.
like
When the previous one.
this,
Yeah.
it was just a silly team to even think about. But they're doing well. They're doing very well, and I'm excited to see what they've got in the near future.
Mm.
Hopefully, they do make a studio finals, not just for my sake, but for theirs as well. That's where like my final verdict would be. If they can take maps off
Yep.
of good teams, and if they can play equal opposition and own them, then I'm all aboard. But right now, I'm staying a little more passive, Josh, on the Monty
Okay.
train.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Should we move on to Bet Boom then? Because it's obviously an event
Sweet.
where you guys have only recently made the playoffs of it. A little bit more, maybe a tougher Swiss stage than some of the other events, Kyxsan.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm not wrong, we went through to the playoffs with score 3-2,
That's right.
and we were like 1-2 down, so we needed to win two best of threes in a row to get it.
Hmm.
Let me see which teams we faced because we played so many matches recently, and
Here you go. I'll bring it up for everyone.
yeah.
There we have it. So you played Honoris, Heat, 1-win, Endpoint, Copenhagen Flames.
Okay, I'll start with the Honoris game. I think recently they've been doing pretty good, much better than before. But for some reason, when we play against them, they don't play their game, or it's just for us, it seems pretty, I'm gonna say, easy to play against them. Not sure why. Maybe it's like the thing that Monte is to us, maybe we are to Honoris. But yeah, I think we played them twice this year, and it was two clean wins, so nothing much to say about them. But overall, I think they've been doing pretty good this year, much better than before, as I said.
Yeah.
Then we played Heat, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, this is the new looking Heat as well, which I don't think many people are too familiar with. So there's obviously been a lot of changes for the French team since sort of the whole RMR discussion came into things. What do you think about Heat in the current day to maybe what they were last year?
I think I'm not sure 100%, but I think they try out few different players in different tournaments, like in the past month or something. But overall, I think they have pretty good lineup, and in my opinion, they're pretty, I would say, annoying to play against. They play they have like their style of playing, which I think also doesn't suit us, and we lost twice to them, I think. So yeah, I think they're pretty underrated, I would say.
Okay. I think that's the
I
first
feel
time in a
like
while that we've heard someone say that about Heat.
Yeah,
So
I was
there's some
gonna say.
positivity.
yeah, like for me at least, it's pretty hard to play against them.
Okay.
Fair. Next game, sorry, I'll bring it up now for you to see. It was against 1-win. You lost 1-2.
Yeah, we won their map pick overpass 16-4. Pretty easy, nothing much to say. Then Inferno, I don't remember what happened, but I think we just couldn't play our game. They probably analyzed us and they counter us so hard that it was impossible to just play the way we want to play. And third map, Vertigo. It's a map that we haven't played a lot recently, but I remember this match on Vertigo that we had 10-5 this side. Then on City side we had a good lead, like 13-7, 13-8. And from this point to the end we just couldn't win a single round. And it ended pretty bad. Nothing much to say. Basically we
Okay.
just couldn't close out the game.
Yeah. It's a bit of a difficult position then for you guys because you're down, what, 1-2 in the Swiss stage. Can't afford to lose another game. You still got 2 games left. And then the next game that you obviously play is against Endpoint, which was this before you played Endpoint in CCT? Like, what do you remember what the time difference was between those 2
Yes,
games?
it was like 7 days or something. We played them
Right.
like 7 days before
Yeah.
the last match. So
Pretty comfortable again.
yeah, comfortable again. I don't remember what exactly happened this match, but yeah, it was not hard to play against them, as I said, and yeah, it was pretty clean 2-0, I would say. But before this match, when we were 1-2 down, it was pretty hard situation because I remember at that time we were not doing good in other tournaments as well. And if you look at the matches, like almost every match we've lost was pretty close. Like third maps, 16-13, 16-14, 19-17, playing with stand-ins, and it was pretty hard and annoying to play at that time. But I'm happy that we managed to bounce back and go into the playoffs actually.
Okay. Last game, right? Was up against the Copenhagen Flames. Now this was with Regali, right? This game, with
No,
sorry,
it
not
was
with Regali,
Farlig.
with Farlig, with the new player.
Yeah, as I said before, I think it's always hard to play against them as well. I think Birds from Sky is pretty good IGL, and it's sometimes pretty like from an IGL point of view, it's pretty hard to play because you never expect what he's gonna do. Like sometimes he's calling things that you've never seen before, and you don't know how to react to it. But if it works, like you cannot blame him. But yeah, I was actually happy that we managed to win this game because usually my teams have always struggled against Copenhagen Flames or this core of players. So yeah, it was nice feeling to finally win against them,
Hmm.
especially in an important match like this, which was like 2-2 match and the loser is eliminated. So yeah.
Okay. Well, getting into the playoffs now. Obviously we might be able to bring up like the entire bracket. They've actually just announced the playoff invites. I'm not sure how long ago that was, but if you scroll up, Ryan, you can actually see them towards the top.
There we go.
So some banging teams in there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are going to get upset, but that's just classic tier 2 online.
Yeah. And as a reminder, right, I clowned them last episode for this as well, Josh. People don't.
Yep.
Let me triple check before I clown them again. Oh, they got rid of it, Josh.
Ooh, really?
They got rid of the playing
So they've
stage.
just changed the bracket mid
Originally, it was going to be 8 playoff invited teams, and then they all play a BO3 where the winners play in the. Sorry.
No, they invited teams to the play-in, and they invited teams to the playoff.
Yes, yeah. So they'd have like an extra it's like the gauntlet stage of the
Yeah, I don't
play,
know,
right?
bro.
Where it's like some teams get invited, but only like some make the cut. It was just
Do you reckon
batshit
they
crazy.
just couldn't get invites? Do you reckon
Yeah,
that's what it was?
probably.
Yeah.
Like just try to get too many teams in would be my guess. But yeah, we're actually in the playoff stage. Obviously the 4 invited teams, Big, lol, Cloud9, Mouse, Virtus Pro. Those are the 4. Obviously VP Outsiders were called, but I think like
That's changed recently,
the ownership's changed or whatever, so it's back to VP. So if you've got any outsider stickers, congratulations, hold on to them. But yeah, obviously it's like pretty decent, like tier 1 teams in the plus. The fact that there's major winners that just rock up to this like online tier 2 tournament and they're just like, yeah, fuck it, we'll play. Yeah, it's going to be exciting as well because I think it's very valuable experience in the Swiss stage. Like you talk about like an Aurora getting a chance at like playing some of these teams. Like, is there
Yeah,
upsets there? Like a godsend. Obviously, you guys at
B&E
Apex as
too.
well. There's a B&E. There's a one
Yeah.
win obviously with the new like Nickelback for like the whole like the whole shebang there with like your Boomich. Obviously your Forzas and your new look Heat as well. Like this is going to be an exciting tournament. Like this, the playoff invite. There's a lot of storylining. Like even though there isn't, there is, Josh, and I can't wait. Actually, I will be paying attention to this a little more than I did in the main Swiss stage because you know I kind of gave them shit last episode, but fair enough, they turned it around. You know, I'll hold my hands up there.
Now, kyxsan. Obviously, we don't know who's playing who just yet, but how many of these invited teams do you reckon are losing in the quarterfinals?
At least one, I think.
At least one. I like
At
that.
least
Yeah,
one.
that mate. I was gonna go with two at minimum, but yeah,
Really?
at least
I
one.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised.
It happens every time, right?
Yeah,
we
true.
Just, so
Mate,
we'll
big-
wait and see.
Big lose to Apex again, and then Mal's
Yeah.
drop out to like one win. You know? Yeah, true. Actually, very true. Yeah, so that's going to be exciting. I will actually say, keep an eye on it, Josh. That's,
Yeah,
I'll even go
yeah.
as far to say that because
I'll be watching the playoff bracket.
100%. That's going to be exciting. Really exciting to see. I didn't actually know that the playoff invites were set. I just thought we were going to talk
Mate,
about the
I
main
just
Swiss.
saw it then. I had
Fair
no
enough.
idea either. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Sweet as. We got one more tournament to talk about, Josh, before we head to our roster changes. We're very
Yeah.
brief, and then it's where we get to have kyxsan's hot takes towards the end of the episode. ECL.
ECL.
Yes, the I don't know. I hate it. I'm not gonna lie. New format. I absolutely hate it. Like it frustrates me more than anyone will ever know. So basically, if anyone at home is listening or watching, the way it worked beforehand, Josh, is that with groups of. So originally, when it was ESEA Premier, it was like 2 groups of 6 or 8 because they like increased amounts and whatever.
Oh, before
And-
that was round robin, man.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
So
as
it
of
changes
recent,
quite a
as of
bit.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about like recent change. So
Okay,
when it was
okay.
ESEA Premier, it was like 2 groups of 8. It was like round robin into playoffs. Then it was 4 groups of 4 GSL format where the
Mhm.
bottom 4 teams got dropped out. Then it was GSL format, but the bottom 4 teams got relegated to the relegation stage rather than to advanced. And now they've just fucked off the lot and just gone, do you know what, we're playing double elim, go big or go home style, which I want to say is fun. Like, it's a fun way of doing this, but I feel like we lose a lot of quality. It's very hard to catch on to, Josh. There's so many games now
Yeah.
happening at one time. I'm not a massive fan of it. I'm not a massive fan of it at all. But the Counter-Strike is always going to be top notch when it's things like this, especially lower bracket. The deep runs happen. When it's upper bracket, you see one team just absolutely coasting. We'll talk about that in a few moments. We can obviously start maybe with the Apex storyline in this one, kyxsan. The El Clasico, the Monty, do it once, do it again. You played against them in your opening game. It went 1-2. Talk to us about that if you remember this one.
It was like 2 months ago, but I think like it was the same situation as every game against Monte. This time actually we took a map of them, but yeah, I feel like they were just the better team, to be honest. And as always, it was hard to play against them.
Fair.
That's it.
Cool.
Monty again. Unfortunate in the draw, but into the lower bracket now. I think, Ryan, all you need to do is win one game and you keep your spot. So basically, if you at least win one game in this bracket, whether it's in the upper bracket or the lower bracket, you'll at least keep the spot
Yeah,
till next
Correct.
season.
Correct.
You have to
Yeah.
lose both your opening game and your second game to go to relegation. So for you guys, even though you've already bowed out of the event, you keep the spot for the next season. You go up against Sprout, LDLC, and then Monty again. I mean, lower bracket runs are insanely difficult when you get pushed down in your first game. So even for these games, how do you think they went?
Actually, like maybe it's not the most important tournament for us, but it was nice to win against Sprout because we kept the spot for next season at least. So, and I think that game was one of the first games they play with ReTr00, so it was a nice game to play. But to be honest, as I already said, they're not in the best form in the last few months, so I think it was not very hard match against them. But of course, it felt nice to win because, even though it's lower bracket and it's hard, you never know what's gonna happen. You can always go all the way. And yeah, it was nice to win that game. Then LDLC, I think it was pretty Xin game, as I remember. I don't remember the score, but we won like 16-10, 16-12. Yeah, nothing much to say about this game. I think we were just the better team, and we proved it. And then Monte again.
I, I mean, you must have looked at that draw and thought, "Fuck, not another time,
Yeah.
surely." Yeah. Well, at least you're going
And
with
it,
a different pick this time.
yeah, actually, we wanted to. We never actually before this match we never picked Vertigo, but it's always hard against them, and we saw that Vertigo is one of their worst map at that time, so we wanted to take the risk because I think we've been playing good Vertigo in practices, and we just wanted to take the risk. And I feel like we should have won that Vertigo, but I don't know. It was as always hard to play against them, and we just couldn't close out the game again. As you can see, 19-17. It happened so many times in these last matches that we lose games like this, very close.
Fair.
Well, across the rest of the field, Ryan, who do we think are like the monster teams? Like Nine, maybe? Because I mean, 9-1 winning
Yeah.
an upper bracket final was meant to be played yesterday, but I think maybe with scheduling of the RMR coming up, they might have to move it about a little bit. There's some decent teams left in. I'm surprised K23 is still in this bracket.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I was gonna say as well. I'd like to say fair play to Saw. They're a team that haven't really surprised anyone in the last few months.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is, right, they lose their opening game. You can see here, they get dropped straight into the lowers, right? They go upper bracket round 2. So the reason why I think that is, because if you're a season 43 player, if I'm not mistaken, you get put into upper bracket round 2, right? So you kind of get a little bit of a cheat code. Anyway, they lose their opening game to Monty. Fair enough, right? Understandable. It's Monty, right? They drop down to the lower. They play this Believe team, which if I bring up for everyone at home to see, Sunny, Volt, Isk, Maze, Milky. Yeah, so it's the old Fnatic Rising side, as you say, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously from here on out, right, they've played B&E. They beat them 2-0, 16-9, 16-6.
Yeah.
They play Endpoint 16-11, 16-11. They play Eyeballers 16-7, 11-16, 16-11, and they play against K23 today. Ever since they joined this tournament, they lost the opening game, and they've been on a lower bracket run, playing against teams that I'd say probably favoured better than them, and they've been winning an awful lot. So fair play to them. Excited to see how that game goes against K23 tonight. But you're right. You look at the upper bracket. You've got one win who are yet to lose a game. They've only dropped 2 maps this entire tournament so far, and then you've got 9 who are yet to drop. Oh, they've dropped 1 map this entire tournament so far to
they've
B&E.
played some very good teams.
500
B&E,
Monty
back to back.
Yeah.
Like that's a tough draw, to be fair, but I think it shows for 9. Like they've qualified to IM Rio, they've qualified to the RMR, they've qualified for Blast, the Showdown. Like they're starting to really make some inroads, and I think that over the next few months we'll get to see them more against tier 1 competition teams, more on LAN. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the next few months hold for 9, because I think you'd maybe say kyxsan, them, Gamer Legion, and like Aurora are like one of the top 3. Maybe include B&E in there as well, as like the beaters in tier 2 that constantly do very well.
Yeah, I kinda agree. Like especially Aurora and 9 this year have been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that B&E, for example, or Gamer Legion are playing bad, but I feel like Aurora and 9 impressed me the most this year, these 3 months so far.
Yeah, so we'll keep up to date. Maybe we'll talk about it in the next episode when it concludes, Ryan, of like who actually comes out on top, who takes that spot in EPL for next season.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Always a fun one to watch these tournaments play out. It's like all of the good teams. So, yeah, definitely exciting. We could obviously come back now. Stop looking at the screen for so long, Josh. We've got a couple of roster changes to go through.
Yeah.
It's pretty light stuff. And then it's basically into the juicy bit right at the end. We can gloss over these, to be honest, Josh. I don't think there's much conversation to be had.
There isn't the biggest of changes. I mean, the first one is obviously Zero from Sinners retiring, which was a little bit surprising. I think he kind of spoke about that it's time to move on. I mean, he's still quite young and quite an experienced player that's played on some very good international teams in the past. And I think at the time when we saw him move to Sinners, we thought on paper, right, this looks pretty good, but Sinners have still had it tough. I mean, I don't know what's happening at that camp at the moment, because They brought in, I don't know if you saw it, but they brought in their academy player of Altex, and he lasted 3 weeks. So he obviously wasn't ready for that level of competition. They bring in Quirts on trial. 5 days later, he's a permanent addition. So, like, what's happening there? How do you bring someone in for 3 weeks, say, yeah, nah, not to be, bring someone in for 5 days, yeah, mate, he's the one. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a bit odd, but...
The inverse maze effect. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Have you scrimmed Sinners at all or played them in practice, kyxsan, recently? Because they were very impressive, I think, last year when they had Oscar in the team and Neofrag, but it's been a tough last 6 months or so for those guys.
Actually, I don't remember us playing scrims against them,
Okay.
but they added Querts now to the lineup, and
Yes.
I don't know like a lot about him, but I remember playing few FPLC games with him in the past, and he was very good, I would say. So I'm not surprised that they took him. And you talked about like bringing him on after only 5 days, and in my opinion, like if someone is good, 5 days is enough to make the decision to bring him in.
Yeah, understandable.
Fair.
Invictus Gaming dropping their lineup just before the RMR, Ryan. Intrigued about this one. I don't know if there's too many details about it, but
yeah.
they're going to the Asia RMR, they're going to LAN, and they're going as, I believe, an unorged team.
I'll say something funny, right?
Okay.
I can't say much on record because it was in DMs, and I don't know. But there was a tweet that Mestel made, right? And he tweeted at Invictus. He was like, "Hello, can someone respond to me, please? No one is like, no one is getting back to me."
Ago,
yeah.
right?
So this was a while
I did
ago.
see that.
And
yeah.
obviously, like, I DM'd him and I was like, "Yo, man, like, what's going on? Like, is everything okay?" And I can't speak. But from what I gathered, like, before I DM'd him, it was like nobody's talking to him. Like nobody was responding. Nobody was messaging him. Like,
Okay.
you're probably like trying to chase the money or like, you know, like someone's not doing something right. Which I just found hilarious that he was just tweeting at them, even though he's part of the org. Just looks like super unprofessional from his end, from their end, not his. And he's just obviously trying anything he can to get a hold of them. But that is quite funny. Like a comical story, but obviously them getting dropped isn't nice to see. But as you said, right, they still keep the RMR slot. They still have, still have plenty of chances. And to be honest, that team is like a very, very decent team for the region that they're in.
Yeah, they came close to qualifying to the major last time around. This time's probably going to be a bit tougher, to be honest, because they've obviously made it from 4 slots to 8. So there's a lot more better teams in the Asia RMR. So it could be more difficult for them to make it to the major. Cloud9 release enters, so he's now complete free agent. kyxsan, where do you see him going potentially in tier 2? Because obviously you've got Aurora. I don't think they'll want to make changes. Like, they're doing too well. Forza have just done very well at Pro League. They probably don't want to make changes. OneWin have just got a new lineup. It's like where, Ikla maybe, but then you're kind of going down the ranks, I think. And then you've got K23 as well. You've got Bait. Does he want to join Spirit Academy? I think all the top decent end tier 2 CIS teams, they're kind of solid right now.
Honestly, maybe most of the people will not agree, but in my opinion, he's a very underrated player and he deserves to play in a tier 1 team. Like, the only teams that I could see him go in tier 2, I mean, if like, I don't think he should go to teams like Ikla or Bait or Spirit Academy. I think he's much better than them. So maybe I would say Aurora or Forza, but as you said, they already just made changes, so
yeah.
I feel like he deserves much better than that. Like, if he goes to tier 2 Russian teams, I would only see him go to Aurora, maybe Force.
Yeah, that might be tough because it's an odd position to be in, right, Ryan? When you get dropped and you've got that much experience, where you think, okay, well, where can I slot in? And then you look at all the very good tier 2 CIS teams right now, and there doesn't seem to be gaps. There doesn't seem to be openings.
Yeah. Like,
so
the only opening, as kyxsan said, like it's completely impossible for him to go there. But you've got to consider Spirit Academy currently playing with their coach. Like, realistically, if he wants to go somewhere quickly and just start playing again, Spirit Academy could be the shout because they're still playing with obviously like the
Sophics, right?
the Sophic, yeah, their coach. But again, like, realistically speaking, it's a bit unfair to move him from C9 to Spirit Academy.
Yeah.
I don't know how good his English is. Like, maybe he plays like FPL and stuff, right? So maybe he's like a a good enough English speaker to go European or to go international.
Maybe.
I think he's got a lot of doors, a lot of openings. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nafany was on HLTV Confirmed, and he said, don't quote me on this, but he basically said there's like 2 or 3 teams in the top 20 right now that are having problems, and I can see him fixing. So,
Okay. So
you know,
we just
maybe
watch out
it's
for
a bit
that
of like
then.
friend bias and like team bias and what have you. But I do believe he's a very, very important piece to a lot of teams, and I'd like to see Inters in a good environment playing again. And you know, maybe it is a European team. Maybe he does take that route. In which case, I'm all for it. You know, I'm very excited. But as you say, like sort of, if you want to stick to the CIS, the Russian culture, effectively of Counter Strike, he's got nowhere to go. He really is
Yep.
stuck in decisions.
Yeah, difficult position to be in. We'll see where he goes. The academy team of Apex have recently made some changes. Trax, who was playing out on 777, I think we
Yeah.
all saw the double IGL situation there of Trax and Akez, goes over to replace Brave. Now, we obviously don't have the scoop, kyxsan, with like a lot of the time what happens with main teams and academy teams. Do you guys play each other much? Like, do you sit in and help them out, or what is the relationship between you and the Rebels?
To be honest, we haven't played against them a lot. I think we practiced them once so far, and honestly, we haven't had many chances to help them somehow because it's been pretty hard for us. We had so many tournaments to play and practice days and everything. But honestly, it's not a bad idea for the main team to help the academy players because I feel like they're pretty good and all of them have bright futures, I would say.
Okay. That wraps up pretty much all the roster changes, Ryan. Yeah, there isn't really many large ones at the moment. Might have
No.
to wait till after the RMRs.
I was gonna say, I think this is the last time we're gonna have roster change talk pre RMR. Yeah, it's I don't think anyone's gonna be making changes anytime soon. But of course, our fourth bit of the day, the split into quarters. This is kyxsan's chance to really hammer home. We're gonna talk about RMRA, Josh. I'm gonna quickly find the link because it wasn't where I thought it was. Either way, we're talking about the RMR. Basically, we're going to give you a tier list, kyxsan. Your job is, we want you effectively to group the RMRs, the teams in the RMRA, right? It's like, well, if you think they're going to qualify, I think it's should, could, unlikely, no chance. And you're just going to give us your honest opinions and see how things go. I need to quickly find the link, Josh. Have you got it to hand
Okay.
at all? Because
I can get it for you.
if you
hang on
don't
a
mind,
second.
I've
Well, what you can do in the meanwhile is maybe look at the close qual while I get the link for you. And then
sure.
we can kind
Yeah.
of go
We'll
through
have a
Apex
chat about the
going
close
3-0.
qual. That's a good shout. So obviously for you guys as well, you had to qualify. You got the invite, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got
through
invited to the close
Euro-
quali.
I like this. I like the change that they've made there, Josh. I must admit. Let me quickly pull this up for us. So yeah, you obviously played through the closed qualifier B. Got invited through the Valve regional rankings. You're obviously talking about you were playing boot camp for this bit. Life's good. You obviously said that you qualified 3-0. Quick chat maybe about the games, because I don't think there's too much to talk about here, right? You play iNation in a BO1. You play Falcons in a BO1. A very interesting game against 500 in a BO3. Quickly run us through maybe what you thought in the iNation game first.
Yeah, it's always scary to play these best of ones, especially in tournaments or qualifiers like this, because you know the tournament is very important and the pressure might be here. But I feel like we prepared pretty good for this match. And against iNation, it ended 16-13, as I can see. But I feel, as I remember, we were leading like a lot. We had the game under control almost the whole match, and I think it was, I'm not gonna say easy, but if you look at the score, 16-13, it looks close, but I think it was not this close because we were leading like 8-0 or something, then 10-5, then 13-5 or something, and then they started coming back, but we managed to close it out on time this time.
Yeah, now iNation were able to make it to the RMR itself. I think they were maybe one of the teams, Ryan, that a lot of people look at as a bit surprising that they made it to the RMR. But obviously getting your first victory against them, and then Falcons, another team that's also at the RMR that you're able to beat.
Yeah, against them, we didn't have too much time to prepare because it was like We played iNation, and then after 1 or 2 hours, we were playing Falcons, so we didn't have too much time to prepare. Of course, we prepared some little details about the maps that we expect to be played, but I think we just tried to play our game here, and the fact that we were at boot camp and everyone was so hyped up, the atmosphere was good, and it was pretty easy to beat them, I would say.
Fair.
Okay. Then
Last
on to the
game,
last game.
the
Yeah.
BO3, the qualification. Obviously, we know how it went, but here you go, against 500. Probably the one of the best, if not the best Bulgarian team right now, Josh.
Yeah, I kinda agree. It's always hard to play against them, but I didn't feel like that this time, except Mirage. We got fully outplayed on Mirage. We didn't have any chance, but I feel like Inferno and Ancient were pretty clean, especially Ancient, 16-3 as I remember. And yeah, it was a big relief to go through 3-0 and to just qualify for the RMR.
What do you make of 500? Because I think they've obviously got a very solid core that have been together for an incredibly long period of time. Obviously, Denny, Ships, and Rainwaker is the three. They went 2-0. They faced you, and then they actually lost all of their games at this RMR. They ended up qualifying through like the last chance bracket, Ryan, which just got them that final spot into the RMR itself. I don't think the results have maybe been as good for them this year as it was last year. But again, they're still a threatening team. So what's it like to play against these guys?
I think it's always hard, and I'm gonna say that they're the best Bulgarian team in my opinion, and they have pretty good core with Ships, Denislow, and Rainwaker. But I feel like I don't know the players. I haven't played with any of them. I'm not sure like how they are basically. But if they make them maybe one more change, I feel like they can make a better Bulgarian lineup than this one. That's my opinion. With one or even two roster changes. But even like now, they're pretty hard to play against, and yeah.
Fair.
Okay, 3-0, nice and easy. Get into the RMR itself. Preparation starts, and I think preparation for the tier list, Ryan. That's what we're all getting prepared for.
Yes, sir. Here we are. There it is. Let me quickly. Can I reset this? There we go. Click the button. That one.
There we are.
All right.
Perfect.
It's in alphabetical order, but you can start wherever you want. Yeah. I mean, I think it's 9 teams that qualify through here, Josh. So
Yeah, well, it's sort of 8 to 9.
Yeah,
you
so-
could come through in a 9th and then go to the last chance bracket. And
if you wanna,
Yeah.
should, could, likely, unlikely, no chance. Yeah, hit us. Where are we starting? Do you want to start with the alphabetical? You gonna go left to right, or are you just gonna do
I
the easy
can.
ones? All right, go on. 1 win. Where are you putting them?
Pretty hard one, I would say, since they have a new roster, and I don't know what to expect them on LAN. I mean, they have some experienced players that know how to play on LAN and that have played many LANs, but I would say unlikely.
Yeah,
Fair.
I don't mind that.
What about yourselves?
Could.
Fair.
Not gonna talk a lot about it. I just
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that we have the quality, and I just feel like if we play our game, that we can go through to the major. Okay, bait.
Yes.
They're pretty. What's the word? Like you don't know what to expect for them. I feel like many people think that they have no chance, but I feel like they can actually do it. But I wouldn't place them at Kut, so probably unlikely. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they go through to the major, because as I remember the last RMR, they were like 1 match away. They played
They were
the
very
best of
close.
3.
They-
They
Yeah.
played best of 3
They beat
to
Fnatic
qualify
in a
for the.
BO1. I remember that
Yeah.
as well.
I think they are a team that is hard to play against, and you can never expect you never know what they will do. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see them at the major.
Are you putting them above or below 1 win?
Above probably.
Fair. Bad News Eagles.
Ben Eagles. Oof. I would say that it's something between should and could. But probably I would put them at could, because I feel like I expect them to qualify. They've been playing pretty good, especially on LAN, like the last 2 RMRs and the last 2 majors, and they played some other LANs as well, like the CCT studio, I think. But I wouldn't put them at should, because I would put only tier 1 teams in the shoot selection.
Fair. Falcons next.
Falcons, hard one, I would say. But maybe I would put them at could, because I feel like since adding body, they've been playing pretty good, and major is in Paris, so
Yeah.
they'll be motivated to prove people wrong, I would say.
Are you okay with this order? Bad News Eagles, Apex, Falcons.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. FaZe.
Face, shoot,
Cool. Easy.
not much to say.
Yeah, I bet. Fnatic.
Fnatic, it's similar to Ben Seagulls, I would say. Like, in my opinion, they will qualify, but I wouldn't put them at shoot because I think they're not at the same level with FaZe or with Navi, let's say. So I would put them at could, maybe after BNE.
Here.
Yeah.
Cool. Fair. Okay. Gamer Legion next.
Gamer Legion, I would say could. I
Okay.
feel like they're one of the best tier 2 teams and actually qualified to the last major, if I remember
Yeah.
good. And they did pretty well there, so I expect them to qualify. And we actually played them in the first match, so it's gonna be interesting.
Maybe we get a couple of quick thoughts on that one, because obviously we don't want to poke you for some details and everything, but international team versus international team, LAN versus LAN, they've obviously got a lot more LAN experience than you guys have. So what do you think about going into that one? Both sort of tier 2 representatives as well. Should be quite an entertaining game, right?
Yeah, it should be an interesting one because, as you said, both of the teams are international, and I feel like even though if you look at the rankings, they're much better than us, but I feel like it's pretty even game. I would say 50-50. And
Okay.
maybe as a team they have more experience on LANs, but I feel like our roster has like the individuals have more experience on LAN, like JKM, Stico, for example, that the players in their team don't have. So I would say it's 50-50 game.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably one of the more like notable watches in the first round, like about all the teams. If we're looking at like the
Yeah.
even spread, that's probably one of the go-tos that a lot of people look at is Gamer Legion versus Apex, on sort of saying we don't actually know who a favorite's going to be in that game.
No, it's going to be very
Yeah.
close. Into the Breach next.
Into the bridge. I think they had pretty decent results since announcing their new roster, but I think it's gonna be hard for them. Like, even though they were playing good, I don't think they're as good as One Win or Bait, so I'd probably put them at no chance.
Yeah. I was getting really worried that no one was going into no chance
Yeah.
at all with this bracket today. Someone's got to go down there.
I mean, it's
Unfortunately.
hard because I feel like in this group, like there are a few favorites like FaZe, Navi, outsiders, but I feel like every other team can surprise.
Hmm.
Even into the bridge, even though I put them in the no chance section, I don't think they're a bad team, and I think they can surprise any of the teams in the group.
Fair. We've got Mouse next.
Mouse, I don't think they're on the level of FaZe or Navi, let's say, but I would still put them in the shoot. I think they will
Okay.
qualify. I think they're better than teams like they're better than all of the teams in the CUT section. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair.
Navi, I think they should qualify. Nothing much to say, even though they've been struggling recently. I would say I still think that it is just Navi, and I don't see them not qualifying to the major.
Yeah. What about OG?
OG, that's an interesting one because I feel like they were doing pretty good with Nexa, but since they changed him and brought up Nico, I'm not sure how that one will work. But still, I think they have pretty good core of players. So I would either put them last in the shoot section or first in CUT. So I'm not ready. Let's put them in CUT, but as first one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're better than all the other teams in the CUT section.
Sure. Outsiders next. Well, now VP.
They should qualify for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing much to say there. They won the last major, so we expect them to at least qualify for the next one.
Where are you putting them? Above FaZe, below Navi?
Maybe second after FaZe.
Okay. Fair enough. What about Saw?
Hmm. I think recently they have not been playing pretty good as they did in the last year, let's say, but I still feel like they can do good things on LAN. So I would put them unlikely, but first, like before bait and one win.
I almost look at the RMI. Remember the one where it's like the Stododo 1v1 at like new box with the AWP and he legs the guy and then they don't win the game and it's heartbreak. That may have been the best chance yet. Like I look at the next few RMRs after that point onwards, and it feels like the competition's getting more stacked. We maybe don't look at Saw at that higher degree anymore, and I don't know, even mentally, right? Like, do you keep thinking about that last RMR, that game that happened 6 months ago, 9 months ago? Because I look at this kind of pack of teams, Ryan, and they're not a favorite for me to make it out. Like
Nah.
they're not even in the conversation with how strong the other competition is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult. It is difficult. But there's always going to be bad teams in a good bunch like this, right? Like, there's always going to be a team that goes, well, they're good in tier 2, or like they can hold their weight,
It's
but
just a different level when you come
it's
here.
entirely different, man.
Yeah.
Entirely. And as you said, like, you know, you definitely won't think about it in the moment, but like it will live with them knowing that they've been so close to qualifying to 2 majors now, and as close as you said with the PGL one, right? Like it was
That's what the
Stockholm,
answer
right?
was.
Or it was Stockholm. It
can't
was the
remember,
first one,
actually.
wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah.
It was the neon sign one, right?
Yeah, that might have been that. Yeah.
PGL RMR, yeah. Well, that's just useful. I've
But
just
they lost
googled
to
it.
they
Let
lost
me.
to Outsiders in like that 3-mapper affair on Inferno that they lost 16-14 on.
Oh, I've pushed the video. Let me have a look. I'm having a look because I'm now convinced. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't say. Grand.
Yeah,
Cool.
there you go.
All right, never mind then. Sprout next.
Uh, like if you look at their recent form, like even before adding Ezetar and even after they added him, they have not had the greatest results. So based on that, I would say no chance, but only because it's on LAN and Ezetar is quite experienced player, I would put them at unlikely.
So
Like
bottom
they,
end, like the bottom team.
I think they will not make it, but I feel like they're even better than one win and bait. I would say I expect them more from them.
Fair. Okay. And Viperio last, the other UK team.
Viperia, like I have never played against them actually, and I'm not quite familiar with like their players and how they play as a team. So I would I would put them at no chance because I like looking at the rankings and the matches they played. They they don't have the greatest results lately, and I'm not quite familiar with the players, so I would just say no chance.
Fair. No arguments. Easy, Josh. Just like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering though. Only 8 teams actually safely make it to the major. There's 10 teams there, Ryan. What aren't the 2 that aren't making it? That's what we've got to watch out for.
There you go. Thank you very much, kyxsan. We'll be moving on now. You get freedom. Choose your team. That's where we're at now. You know, like you know, contracts don't exist. This is a loopy land that we live in. We're going to ask you to make your dream team for tier 2, right? You can have yourself in it. You don't have to have yourself in it. The rule is it's yourself and another teammate. That is the rule. If you're going to put yourself in, you can only have one other teammate. The rest of it, it's just all tier 2 players. What is the best tier 2 team you can come up with? Let us know where you're starting.
I will not put myself in the team, I think,
Okay.
but I will instantly choose one of my teammates, and it's gonna be JL.
Okay.
Okay, the Lithuanian.
Yeah, I think he's been playing amazing since I joined, at least even before that, and he can play a lot of different roles. Like even if you give him the hope, he will deliver.
Yep.
You can put him at any position and he will just play good. I think he's pretty skilled player and a smart one, so no doubt about this one.
Next player.
If we count Forza as tier 2, I would
Yeah,
put
yeah, we'll put
Jerry
him in.
as the IGL. Jerry.
Okay.
I think they've been around like on the tier 2 scene for a long time, and they changed a lot of players, and but they always had like good results, and Jerry was always their IGL, and I think he's a pretty good one.
Sure. Who's
Need an AWPer.
yeah? Who's the AWP?
Yeah. I'm thinking about Regali,
Okay.
Okay.
and he also doesn't have a team now, so it's gonna be easier to sign him.
Yeah.
Get
True.
the contracts ready. Yeah.
Okay, so I need 2 more riflers.
We want like the proper hard hitter. That's what we're looking at.
Mm.
It's got to be someone from Monty, surely, right?
I was thinking about one of the Aurora riflers. They
Okay.
impressed me a lot this year, but I'm not sure. I haven't watched them a lot, to be honest, but I know that Kenzie and Norby are their best players, I would say. So I would put maybe Kenzie as one of the
All right.
riflers.
There he is. And one more to go. Who's rounding out the team?
This one is maybe gonna be a bit unusual or unexpected, but I'm gonna say Vladan or VODN from iNation.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure like if you watched him, but he's insane and he plays like the bad positions, I would say. He's the anchor and he still has amazing stats, and I think he's the best player in this team. And honestly, like this year, they have been playing pretty good. They're top 40, top 35, something like that. So I'm not even sure that this is a surprise. I think he's
Okay.
gonna be even better in the future.
Intriguing. Because I think when a lot of people look at the Serbian scene right now, you might look at like a Collins. Some people maybe look at a Depression, which is obviously the AWPer from our nation. But yeah, I think that's the first time we've had his name pop up, Ryan. So we're getting a taste of
I like
some
that. Yeah.
different cuisines, right, with these tier 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, last episode, I think with, or like last time, memorably, we did this was with Artist from Viperio, and he's like,
Yep.
he's bringing like Art Frost, Donk, like Rala, and it was just like the heavy hitters. But I feel like there's actually been like consideration as to like how
Yeah,
this
yeah.
roster's gonna function as well. I like it. I'm here for it. Yeah, fair play. There you go. Easy. Tier 2 lineup done. Honest opinions, Josh. Where do we see these guys? Are we saying like, do we see a breakthrough? It's different. It definitely is different.
I think the Jerry and Kenzie communicating in English might be an interesting one. But yeah, I like it. It's a bit out of the park. I do like Kenzie actually. I mean, he was very good, and you got to remember that he played on Forza before, so you've got a good relationship between Jerry too. So
Yeah.
I like that bit. And then yeah, for Regali too, I think he's one of the stronger riflers, or one of the stronger AWPers, I should say, in tier 2 right now. And yeah, maybe he wants a taste of playing on an international team again.
There you go. Easy as. We get to have some fun now, Josh. Q&A. Get to poke at the Apex IGL a little bit. Have a little discovery what's going on. So if you're watching live on stream, drop your questions in the chat, and we'll get around to asking some of those. We can start things off with some of the questions we prepped, Josh. Obviously, it's quite similar for a lot of our guests, just so we know what it's like. First question we always ask is, what is it like playing in such a competitive tier 2 space nowadays? Obviously, like from pre-COVID to now, it feels like a lot more online CS, a lot higher level, higher quality of Counter-Strike. So what's it like playing in tier 2?
Honestly, it's pretty hard, I would say. The competition, I feel like, has never been like better. There are so many teams that I feel like every tier 2 team can surprise anyone, and it's always hard to play against like anyone basically. And the fact that we have so many tier 2 tournaments, and with that we have less time to practice, it's pretty hard. Like it's been like a month since I came back from bootcamp, since we came back, and we had like 5 or 6 practice days because every other day we had official. So yeah, I would say it's never been this competitive and hard for the tier 2 teams.
Okay. Warm-up routines, kyxsan. What's it like inside and outside of the game before an official?
I don't have something very specific, but before games I like to play like at least 30 minutes of DM or aimbots. And of course as an IGL, most of the times, almost every time I prepare a game plan for the upcoming match. So that takes also like 1 hour, let's say. So basically that's how what I do before the matches basically.
Fair We'll ask a question grounded to tier 2 again. Is who is the best player you've played with and against? So just in tier 2 specifically. Can be in prac as well, or you know, if there's been like a team that you've mixed in like an official or whatever. Who's the best player you've played with and against?
Oof, this is a hard one. Uh, Obviously, I haven't played with many players. I've had only 2 teams so far in tier 2, let's say. But I would say Nok, I think, is the most skilled player I've ever played with. And not only with op, like there are so many situations in which you just give him the AK and he wins you the round. I think he's insane. And I'm really not sure who is the best player I've played against in tier 2. If it was tier 1, I would say Zaiwu on practices. But I'm really not sure about tier 2.
Okay. What is the next step for Apex in your team? Obviously, you mentioned earlier your goal was to win one of these online cups in tier 2. What do you think is the next progression? Right? Is it still that maybe qualifying to the major, certain ranking in mind, certain amount of LAN events to attend this year?
We don't have a specific ranking goal, but we would like to be at least around top 30, I would say. But the biggest goal for us since day one, since I even joined the team, or even before that when I was on trials, I know that the biggest goal for this team was to qualify for the next major. And now it's getting closer. The RMR is in like 10 days or something. So I would say like step by step. First it was the close quali for the RMR. That was our biggest goal. Now it's the RMR, and hopefully later it's gonna be the major.
Fair. Another question then, I guess, sort of leading into that in team environment is, what's the biggest difference between playing for a team of Blue Jays and then coming over to a team like Apex?
There are some differences, of course. Like the biggest one, of course, is the language. You know, it's much easier when you communicate with your team on your native language, and it hasn't been so hard for me because I got used to speaking English in a team pretty fast. It was not that hard, but one of the other differences is that I feel like in this team there's much more experience. Like the players in Apex have much more experience than in Blue Jays, and in some matches that are let's say important ones, it's easier to play. Like you don't feel that pressure that you feel like when you don't have that experience. So yeah, I would say the experience and the language are the 2 biggest differences.
Now, pressure, kyxsan. Is there any on you being the only North Macedonian player to attend an RMR or a minor and perhaps qualify to the major? Like the whole region's looking at you. Do you feel like there's pressure with you because of that?
Honestly, I wouldn't say it's pressure. Like I would say more that it's excitement. I'm pretty excited to play this tournament. Finally, I have the chance to play a bigger tournament. It's actually my first bigger LAN, I would say. And actually, I'm just happy and proud to be the first Macedonian player to attend this kind of tournament.
Excellent. We like to hear that, Ryan.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think the last question, Josh, that we were going to ask about the boot camp ready for the RMR, we can ask it again. Obviously, Apex has their own facility, right? So it's quite free for you to do this. Has there been a boot camp as of recent? Have you guys gone to boot camp getting ready for the RMR, or is it more online prep?
So basically, since I joined, since New Year, we had 2 bootcamps. One at the beginning of January, like a few days after I signed for Apex, we had our first bootcamp, and then we had second one for the close quali for the RMR. We played the qualifier from there, from the bootcamp, as I said already. And actually, in 3 days, I think, we're leaving for another bootcamp, which is gonna be a shorter one. We will have like 5 days or something, 5 or 6 days of bootcamp, and then we fly to Copenhagen for the RMR.
Fair. Gonna be exciting, Josh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking forward to that. I think that pretty much wraps everything up. Right.
Yeah.
I think RMR starts on what is
10
it,
days,
6th?
right?
6th, yeah.
Yeah, 1 week and 5 days
Oh,
if
never mind
you're
then.
watching the
There
stream
you go.
right now, and then 1
Yeah.
week and 4 days if you're watching on YouTube tomorrow.
There you go. Anything you want to say, kyxsan, before we wrap things up? Anyone you want to thank or say hello to?
Nothing special. I would just like to thank you for the invite. It's been great. I really enjoyed being here. That's all.
Fair enough.
Maybe we'll bring you back, Kyxsan, for when the first North Macedonian player qualifies for the major as well.
I hope so. Or maybe wins the major.
Yeah,
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 even
true.
better, huh?
Yeah. Major winner on the show. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Make sure to go and follow him on Twitter, of course, at kyxsan CSGO. Get all the updates there. Maybe there's boot camp content. Who knows? Who knows? Listen, thank you very much for joining us, fellas. It's been a pleasure as always. That's us done for now. Make sure to follow here on the Twitch or a sub on the YouTube if you're watching. Stay up to date. Until then, have a great one, guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.